and thank you for tuning in to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna, and that is Kelly.
Hey.
Before we get started, we just wanted to remind you to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We've got all sorts of serial killer and murder facts, and we follow up with some of the cases we discuss.
Finding the right pros for home projects can be tough and spark a lot of questions like, how do I find a pro who can help? Will they do a good job? Will I get a fair price? That's where Home Advisor can help. From leaky faucets to major remodels, Home Advisor connects you to the right pro for the job in seconds and even helps you get a fair price. Read reviews, check project cost guides, and book appointments. Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free Home Advisor app to start your next project.
Week we did some Killer Kid drawings. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did.
Pretty crazy. So if you want to get that information and info about when new episodes come out, follow us on there. If you haven't already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That really helps us out, and we really appreciate all your positive feedback. Again, we're going to move the reviews to the end of the show so that we don't take up too much time to get to the story.
I gotta say, those drawings are better than anything I could ever do in my life.
I know. Part of me saw the drawings and was like, oh, that's really seems young for her age. Because she was, must have been 12, 13-ish when she drew them. But I'm like, I can only do stick figures. So I don't know why I'm hating on her drawing. We've had a couple people jump in on that too and be like, I don't draw well, so I don't know what that says about me.
The drawing I do involves a game of hangman.
That's where it ends.
Yeah.
That's where the progress and maturity stops. I got it.
5 steps to it and then we're done.
You've got one eye here and a little half smile. We're going to leave you without an eye, but that's cool. So I think that's it. We can jump right into our story. For this week, we are doing letter L, and we're doing Los Angeles murders.
Not love?
There's just too many to choose from. How do you even narrow it down? It's crazy.
Los Angeles.
That's us.
Oh, my God. Well, technically not, because we're like Valley, and people from LA hate the Valley.
Yeah, pretty much. And most of our listeners probably hate our Valley accents anyway. We're close enough to LA.
I'm really sorry.
So, with all that said, we're going to get into the case of Chester Dewayne Turner. The first thing that I want to mention about this story is why I chose it. Obviously, there's a ton of murders in Los Angeles, so it's, a good pick for this letter. Not just because we come from here, but it's just a city with a high crime rate, But there's a lot of murders that don't really get a lot of coverage. And so this particular story I chose because it happened within the African American community and all the victims were African American. And as a result of that, it received very, very little media coverage. And it took a long time for the police to apprehend someone. Race played a really big part in this story. So I really, really wanted to cover this because this isn't the only case of that happening.
No, it only happened once?
Right.
You sure?
It's crazy how often it happens. I mean, it goes into it in the story, but I mean, really, there were quite a few Black serial killers working in LA at that time in the 80s. So it just kind of went under the radar and nobody really caught them for a long time. This is
good for
one
them.
of those.
Right? I mean, kind of. That's where race has the racism.
They had the upper hand because it was just such an inefficient police force trying to find them.
Yeah, it sucks for the victims. But,
it was totally terrible.
Killers.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, and I actually went into it a little bit in the story because he really did start his violent crimes at a point where the probability of being caught was the least. Because there were so many other people doing it and because the crime rate was so high and because drug use was rampant, there were just so many things working in favor of a serial killer not getting caught in this era. So that's why I wanted to go into it. I kind of poked around to see if other podcasts had covered this person, and it really hasn't been done.
They're racist too, like the cops.
That's basically what it is. But actually, I wanted to point out also that one of the local publications, the LA Weekly, does a really phenomenal job of covering these cases that just disappeared into thin air. I don't know if you read any of those pieces, but I've seen a couple, not only this guy, but others, where LA Weekly will just point out what a terrible problem it is that these cases in the minority communities are not covered at all. Mm-hmm. And then they just keep going for years and years. So that was one of my main sources that I use, because it's really crazy the amount of detail that they go into and how many killers there were actually active in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, wow. Yeah, LA Weekly always has good articles.
Yeah.
And awesome coupons for strip clubs and weed clubs in the back.
Just how you find all your dispensaries.
Yeah, $25 new patient referrals.
And your personal ads.
Yeah.
For all those masseuses.
I find out where all the porn stars, what clubs they're going to be at, strip clubs.
So really, you can just get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, it's in LA Weekly. So yeah, I really appreciate the articles in that, especially on these subjects. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the inspirations behind wanting to do this particular case. So, sorry, I had to kind of go into a tangent because I just think that's an important thing to cover about these cases. So, Chester Dewayne Turner was born on the 5th of November, 1966 in Warren, Arkansas. Turner moved to Los Angeles with his mother after his parents separated when he was only 5 years old. Chester and his mother lived in a modest one-story bungalow in the 600 block of West Century Boulevard. She worked 2 jobs, and Turner was described as a latchkey kid who stuck close to home.
Why do I know that? I feel like my parents say, "What's a latchkey kid?" Please.
I feel like we've talked about this before.
Have we? Okay,
yeah,
maybe.
I swear.
My parents, you, same thing.
Ouch.
I'm just kidding.
A latchkey kid is someone that's basically sent home with the key so that they can let themselves in because their parents aren't there to either pick them up from school or be home when they get home from school.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was one of those.
That's you. His mother owned her own cleaning business and always worked a second side job to make ends meet. Because she was always working, Chester was required to help her with a lot of chores, errands, and housework. A relative said he didn't have a regular childhood. He didn't go nowhere. He didn't go to the park, the gym. He couldn't because his mother would not let him. He was always at home helping her. Chester's mother also had the odd habit of locking food away, although it is unclear if this was for financial reasons, dietary restrictions, or simply a way to control and assert power over her children. A childhood friend said, Chester's mother could be too tough on him as a teen, locking the food up and making him wait outside until she got home from work. You have to deal with those things. I knew he had problems. When Chester would go stay with his father, he was often subjected to isolation and abuse. His father was extremely strict by all accounts and never missed an opportunity to reprimand his son. His father remarried and had more kids, and his new stepmother would physically abuse him. It is clear that his stepmother was resentful of her husband's child from a previous relationship, and she would often take out her anger on him. This behavior also set an example for the couple's children, and Chester was often picked on by his step-siblings. I don't know how old his step-siblings were, but they were younger than him and picking on him, but I don't know how.
Sucks.
I know, right? Like, I don't know how much younger, but that visual is kind of weird to me.
But it usually doesn't work like that. Like,
right.
You're supposed to pick on the little ones.
Oh, you're supposed to?
Or you just knock them down or kick them. Yeah, you're supposed to. Circle of life, something like that.
In school, Chester was energetic, disruptive, and a bit of an outcast. He showed a lack of inhibition and disregard for social boundaries. He would often act without thinking, and his behavior alienated him from classmates and got him into trouble with school staff. He was nicknamed Chester the Molester.
Ah.
I know. It's just rhyming, like, you know? It's shitty. Why don't parents think of that?
Yeah,
That's like my worst nightmare, is just becoming pregnant and then having to think of a name that won't get my kid fucked with.
Yeah. Your parents thought about Brianna doesn't rhyme with shit. I mean, like, Brianna Banana, that's not even cool. Like, someone's gonna be like, you're lame.
Yeah.
My parents fucked up. Kelly, Belly, Smelly, Jelly. I've heard those my entire life.
Oh.
No. It's okay, though. Fuck it.
In the early 80s, his trouble with school began to get too difficult, and he eventually decided to drop out at 17. He got a part-time job at Domino's Pizza and spent a lot of time just chilling out, looking for mischief around the neighborhood. Chester was known for his violent temper, and one friend said he was known in the neighborhood as someone who was off his rocker when he got mad.
Who the fuck isn't off their rocker when they get mad?
Like, that's what mad is.
Yeah, exactly. Redundant. Stupid.
But we both maybe have a little bit of anger issues.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's true. I'm off my rocker normally.
Yeah, it seems redundant, but it's just like, I think he was particularly explosive. He hung around the nearby liquor store on Figueroa and 76 and earned the nickname Cisco after his favorite drink. I don't think the song was out yet.
I'm trying to think what Cisco is. What is that?
Actually, I don't drink.
I did.
This is not my area of expertise.
Let's see. Cisco's. Gotta know. Hold on.
What does the Google say?
I think it's a wine.
Okay.
But I don't feel like that guy went to the liquor store to get a bottle of wine.
Yeah,
like,
that's a little weird.
Oh, it's like a fucking Boone's Farm, like a wine cooler type. The Great Bum Wine.
Oh, really?
That's what it says.
Wow. So now we know that's what Cisco is, and that was his name.
Yeah.
A neighborhood friend said Chester, a.k.a. Cisco, was always standing around. He was always just standing in front of the liquor store. Chester would hang out with all the local sex workers on Figueroa and get in brawls with neighborhood kids.
That sounds fun. I want to hang out with prostitutes.
Those are great
Cisco's.
hobbies.
Yeah, fight fucking kids. That'd be great.
Chester began hanging out with the neighborhood teens, presenting himself as a gang member, although he was never found to be affiliated with a gang. It's a gang of one or something. He did, however, start spending most of his days drinking and getting high with friends, and just wandering the streets getting into trouble. His troublemaking and partying became too much for his mother to handle, and he was eventually kicked out. After being kicked out of his house, he began staying at friends' houses, with girlfriends, with his grandfather, at shelters or missions, in jail or on the street. While teenage Chester was spending most of his time on the LA streets, there were huge crack and PCP epidemics ravaging the city at the time. Along with the exploding drug addiction issues, LA was also experiencing an astronomical increase in homicide rates. In the specific Southeast division that Chester lived in, they were averaging 30 murders per year in a small station with only 2 homicide detectives.
No!
Yes. Chester Turner began his small-time criminal activity during the largest crime wave in the city's history, when Los Angeles murders clocked in at over 1,000 per year.
That's like the gold rush, but...
But for crime,
Yeah.
It's crazy. Even though the murder rates were skyrocketing in general, there were enough unique cases which stood out to detectives that by 1985, police began suspecting that there was a serial killer, or possibly more than one, operating in the LA area. Chester had only participated in minor neighborhood mischief and hadn't even committed violent crimes by this point. When he eventually did start attacking local women, there were already other serial killers preying on the same community, making it harder for police to follow the leads and develop theories. One of the key factors in these murders continuing without apprehension of a suspect was the fact that the victims were African American, and so were the killers. In addition to being Black, the victims of these crimes were often labeled as drug addicts and sex workers, so even less value was placed on their lives than other victims who were white or had a lifestyle that society viewed as legitimate. The public was a bit passive at first, but as the death toll kept rising, they began to put pressure on law enforcement. By 1986, the Black community demanded action, and the Black Coalition Fighting Black Serial Murders was formed. Coalition members said, quote, "The low-profile media coverage and problems with the investigation are all examples of women's lives not counting and Black women sex workers counting least of all." The police did pay attention, That January of 1986, the LAPD and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department created the Southside Slayer Task Force.
That's a really cool name.
Right?
Yeah.
Southside Slayer.
Southside Slayer.
49 detectives logged more than 4,800 tips in only 2 years, and they solved dozens of felonies, including 2 murders. The way that stated is like it's supposed to be impressive, but I feel like
There should be more.
there should be a lot more.
Yeah.
To me, the math does not add up on that. So you've got 49 detectives, you've got over 4,000 tips, and you solved 2 murders in 2 years?
Maybe the tips are shit.
Yeah.
It's probably just
and it's a
terrible
lot
tips.
to just trace down, I guess.
After-
I want to believe, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but something about that math doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of tips. But I mean, after like 10 tips, I'm like, I'm
You're like, I get it.
Yeah. Well, at least they solved 2.
Yeah, all right. Looking on the bright
You be
side.
a detective. You go out there and do that.
I know. I'm sure it's a lot harder. I just thought that was weird. I don't know. I could see 10, 20, something, but 2 seemed a little small.
I
But
bet you
whatever.
the
I don't
2
know how hard it is.
I bet you the 2 solved were white people.
Right?
That's why they
It was the only white murders
Yeah.
in the entire city.
We got him.
Oh, geez. While the task force was trying to piece together clues to get murderers off the street, Chester was beginning to have trouble with the law. Chester was convicted of 6 offenses, including theft and drug possession, as well as assault on a police officer and cruelty to animals. In one stabbing incident, he knifed a childhood friend after the teen pulled a weapon on him.
What else are you going to do? Shit.
That's just called common sense.
Yeah.
He also claims that he was jumped by 3 men who sliced his right cheek, leaving a dramatic facial scar. He does have a scar, from the top of his head all the way down his face.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Chester was jailed 7 times over 7 years, 6 for nonviolent offenses and 1 assault charge. It's worth pointing out that he didn't really have a history of violence against women, and that's kind of what the cops were searching for, was someone that had multiple domestic violence issues or multiple rapes on his rap sheet. And so one of the reasons it took so long to find him was because he just had little petty crimes, you know? So it was really harder to track back and point to him as a suspect.
Yeah, because nothing's giving them clues
Exactly.
that it was him.
So we're about to go into the murders. It really is just going to be kind of a list of one person after another. So I apologize. I'm going to try and put a timestamp in the description. So if you want to skip the crimes, because really it is just a bunch of murders. If you don't want to hear that, I'm going to put that in the description so that you can skip right through it and then go to the trial and the capture and,
How about I beatbox, you rap the names so no one has to skip through.
That'll be a lot easier. A spoonful of rapping makes the murder go down.
It's appropriate, 80s LA.
Right? Let me get my Kangol. Yeah, so I will put a timestamp. I understand if you don't want to hear that. I totally get it. So if you want to skip ahead, I'm going to put that in there. Just go look for that. Hit pause now.
Don't fucking hit pause. Just listen. No. Just kidding.
All right. So Chester's first murder was of Diane Johnson in 1987 when he was only 20 years old. 21-year-old Diane was found partially nude alongside the 110 freeway. She had been strangled and left in a roadside construction area west of the Harbor Freeway. Shortly after this, he strangled Alondra Bunn near the 98th and Figueroa intersection. Then, not long after that, a third victim, 26-year-old Annette Ernest, was found face down, partially nude, 3 blocks from where Johnson was discovered. Ernest was a young mother who had been struggling to get off the streets at the time of the murder. All 3 of these victims had been sexually assaulted. In 1988, only a year after Chester's first killing, the task force seeking out serial killers in the Black community was disbanded due to a lack of clues.
A lack of clues? That's why he just give up?
Right? It wouldn't happen if they were white ladies. Just saying.
I mean, they just got to go look for clues. They don't just appear.
You've got a bunch of detectives, all these man hours.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand. I could understand if they disbanded because they caught a couple people, like they thought maybe there was a few operating and they caught most of them.
Yeah.
But they really didn't make any progress and then decided to just get rid of it altogether.
They disbanded the Slay Squad or whatever they are.
Right? The Slayers?
Slayers. There we go.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's very sad.
Oh, and shit's heating up between the African American community and cops around this time too.
Yeah.
So of course they don't give a shit.
Right.
Like, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's
it's a very crazy time for the tension between the police and the Black community.
Yeah.
In early 1989, 31-year-old Anita Fishman disappeared. 2 weeks later, a group of elementary school boys discovered her strangled and badly decomposed, partially nude body behind a mattress in an alley. Anita's sister Suzanne says their family tried to help her kick her crack cocaine habit. Suzanne expressed regret that they were unable to help her. Less than a year later, 27-year-old Regina Washington was found partially nude and hanging by an electrical cord inside a garage.
What happened?
Regina was 6.5 months pregnant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm too emo for this story right now.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry.
Aw.
Regina was 6.5 months pregnant at the time of her murder. I'm a mess.
Aw. You have feelings? Oh my God.
I gotta knock that off. I'm trying to quit.
With these fucking feelings.
All right. I'm back.
Yeah, okay, you all right?
The death of her unborn child was attributed to the strangulation of her mother and was ruled a homicide.
Ugh.
Co-prosecutor Bobby Grace said that time, effort, and cruelty was put into this murder. That one really gets me. Sorry. Just horrific.
Yeah, it really is.
Chester's attacks were escalating, but there still wasn't enough of a pattern to lead police to him. At this time, in the very early 90s, he was training to be a manager at Domino's and beginning a rocky relationship with a childhood friend named Felicia Collier, who had lived across the street from him.
He's still working at Domino's. Like,
yeah.
He's like been there for a cool minute.
I know. It really never lists any other job that he had. It's weird. Yeah. Just climbing that corporate ladder. one slice at a time. But I get a lot of free pizza. It's the perks. Chester and Felicia had a child together when Chester was 26 years old. He would go on to have 3 more children, and his relationship with Felicia became more turbulent and violent. During one confrontation, a relative of Felicia's had to intervene and help her, and ended up shooting Chester in the stomach.
Yes.
Right? In one huge clue missed until much later, the killings halted for that time after Chester was shot and needed time to physically recover.
Oh, he lived.
Yup. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was really happy.
I know, right? Nope. He's still going to keep going. In late 1991, the very first inkling of Turner's sexual deviance surfaced. He was arrested for lewd conduct because he masturbated in front of a crossing guard.
Wait, you don't do that?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, you're not supposed to.
Oh. I always think of the best crossing guard is from Reno 911 when Jones was put out there. Or what's his name, too? Dangle's a good crossing guard, too, right?
Oh, yeah, he has good poses.
Yeah.
It looks like he's voguing. Oh, my goodness. But the thing about this is he was released in the fall of 1992 after this charge. But within hours, he was arrested again for indecent exposure.
After he was released, he tried to get his release again. Stupid.
Oh, my God.
This guy's just busting nuts left and right. God damn it.
Yeah, he didn't learn his lesson. That's clear. But then also, he was arrested again the same day he got out. And then he was released from custody that night.
What?
After the second one. Yes. For reals.
Showing your dick's not that bad of a crime, I guess.
I know. People don't take it seriously.
What, you put your pussy out once and you go to prison for fucking...
Kelly's got a case.
You're banned from all fucking local parks. And schools.
And dog parks. And McDonald's.
And local 99-cent stores.
But Dollar Trees are still cool, so you're all right.
That's fine.
Oh, man. In September 1992, the strangled body of Tammy Christmas was found next to a portable classroom at Barrett Elementary School on West 98th Street. Then on November 16th, 32-year-old Deborah Williams' body was found at the bottom of a stairwell that led to the boiler room at the same school. 1 month later, on December 16th, the body of 42-year-old Mary Edwards was discovered inside the carport of a rundown hotel adjacent to the school. All these sites were within walking distance of Turner's house. On April 2nd, 1993, 29-year-old Andrea Triplett vanished. She was last seen getting into a small brown car with a black male. Andrea was strangled and found partially nude behind a vacant building on Figueroa Street later that month.
Okay, they just need cops on Figueroa, like just chilling near fucking alleyways or looking for some fucking clue or something. Just something will happen on Figueroa. I would just stand.
That's where everything took place. Yeah. But the cops had said they never suspected him. They would go on to talk about it, that they never thought it could have been him because he was always around the neighborhood, never having any really issues. They were just so familiar with him that he was hiding in plain sight, basically.
Oh my God, that's how it always fucking happens,
right?
Dude. Ugh.
Andrea was strangled and found partially nude behind a vacant building on Figueroa Street later that month. Andrea was 5 months pregnant. Andrea's mother recalls that when she opened her home to mourners following the burial of her daughter and unborn granddaughter, she remembers that Chester showed up to her home. Chester spoke to neighbors and ate food provided by various family members, but mostly kept to himself. Isn't that creepy?
Dude.
Oh, that makes me so upset. What a piece of shit. About a month later, Desiree Jones was found in the backyard of a vacant home. Jones' brother Frank said she was smart, outgoing, and funny. Desiree had worked at a rest home for the elderly before her battle with drugs made it impossible for her to maintain employment. Around 1994, Chester and his new girlfriend, Maria Condon, moved to Salt Lake City, where his mother had moved. There, he worked at a homeless shelter and a fast food restaurant.
Oh, because he could just murder the fucking homeless and no one would care.
Seriously.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Damn.
I mean, he's really preying on vulnerable communities the whole time throughout his whole killing career.
Yeah, drug addicts, homeless people, fuck.
Mm-hmm. Sex workers.
Yeah,
like,
sex
it's
workers.
Terrible.
Pregnant women, just really vulnerable people.
But he soon found another girlfriend named Annie Bell, and they returned to L.A. In February 1995, 31-year-old Natalie Price was found dead outside a vacant home that was often used as a crack house and shooting gallery. Natalie had been strangled and was found partially nude. In November 1996, 45-year-old Mildred Beasley's partially nude body was found in the brush along the 110 freeway. Mildred was a married woman with a teenage son who had moved to L.A. from Texas only 8 weeks earlier. This poor lady.
Yeah. Second one under the 110 freeway.
Right.
Boo.
Police say that this was his last known murder victim in his original South Los Angeles neighborhood before he moved downtown and started killing women there. In early 1998, he was living at a downtown hotel when he lured a mentally ill transient woman named Paula Vance to a walkway next to an office building. A security camera caught the images of Chester raping and murdering 24-year-old Paula, but the face of the killer was unable to be seen in the video.
Finally, a camera, dude. Something.
But you still can't even place him there.
Yeah,
you just know that it happened.
Something.
They could see his build, basically, like that he was kind of stocky and whatnot, but that's it. Nothing of his face. He was wearing a hoodie, if I remember correctly. Paula Vance's body was later found at Olympia Tool in Azusa. Approximately 2 months later, 39-year-old Brenda Breeze was found dead from a ligature around her neck in a portable bathroom. Breeze was found just 50 yards away from the Regal Hotel near Little Tokyo, where Chester Turner was staying at the time. After killing 15 women and 2 unborn children, police were no closer to apprehending Chester Turner. In fact, another man was convicted of 3 murders that were actually committed by Chester. 28-year-old David Allen Jones, a janitor with intellectual disabilities, was wrongly convicted of the 3 1992 school-related murders.
Oh, they just blamed, let me guess, the black janitor.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Fuck.
David Jones was barely literate and was questioned without an attorney, at which time he admitted to using drugs with the victims in the areas where their bodies were discovered. Coerced confessions led David Jones to be found guilty of the murders of Tammy Christmas, Deborah Williams, and Mary Edwards. I wonder if that was one of the 2 cases that the task force solved. Fuck. In 2000, Chester began working as a security guard at the Midnight Mission. I think I volunteered there.
Really?
I can't remember. Although he was a registered sex offender after his lewd conduct incidents, the Midnight Missions allowed Turner to work at the facility as part of a drug rehabilitation program for cocaine abuse.
Wait, why? Okay, so he was flying under their radar, but he is a registered sex offender that lives within the area of where all these people were murdered.
I think they expected him to have more violent crimes. So just because he basically took his dick out and that seemed more passive to them, and also didn't have repetitive incidents of like continuing to do it other than those 2 times.
Like taking his dick out, getting caught, and then taking his dick out right when he got out?
Kind of like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they were probably just looking for repeated domestic violence, a lot of assaults, a lot of rapes, stuff like that, because they thought that that was more in line with the suspect that they were looking for. So just something as passive as like exposing yourself or masturbating just didn't seem like a big deal to them. I mean, I definitely disagree with that.
Especially when you live right there.
Right.
You live right fucking there.
They see you all the time.
Let's just do a 2-mile like stretch of asking every fucking person that's a registered sex offender there.
While working at the Midnight Mission, Chester met Maria Martinez, a drug dealer and addict who took showers at the mission and sold single cigarettes to feed her habit. Chester always referred to Maria as the cigarette lady. One night in 2002, she was walking to an all-night hamburger stand on Los Angeles Street when Turner called her over for a light. Chester then grabbed her by the throat and pulled her behind a dumpster, where he raped her repeatedly. Chester threatened Maria afterwards that if he got arrested, he would kill her. As she stumbled away from the rape scene, she said that she wasn't really feeling, she was just walking. Maria was still in shock when she walked into the LAPD's nearby Central Division station, mostly just looking for somewhere to hide. She wanted to wait until Chester left the area and she felt safe again. Once she was inside the precinct, Maria decided to report the rape. But the front desk officers looked Maria up and down as she tried to tell them her story, and it was clear that they did not believe her.
Wow.
They instructed her to sit and wait, which made Maria feel hurt and slighted. She just left and went back to her encampment on Boyd Street. When she got back to the mission, an administrator urged Martinez to fight back and insisted on taking her to the police. She encouraged Martinez to file a police report and said she wanted someone to believe her. She wanted to make it clear that she wasn't partying with him either. Maria filed a police report and was given a sexual assault exam, which produced the genetic evidence that positively identified Chester Turner as her rapist. Police found Chester hiding fully clothed in a shower at the mission, and they promptly arrested him. The reporting of Maria's rape was the big break in the case that would eventually lead to getting Chester off the streets.
Man, fuck the LAPD. Seriously. Holy shit.
Well, a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at this time, it was particularly fucked up.
Yeah.
You know? I know that they've made some great strides, but I mean, it was very, very bad. You know, when he was operating in the 80s and 90s, it was just horrific. Not that it wasn't bad in the 60s and 70s, because it was a whole nother level, but
yeah.
At this time, police were not even close to considering Chester as a suspect. And he was flying under the radar by not having the kind of violent rap sheet and crimes against women which the police were looking for. Police were also familiar with Chester because he was always around the neighborhood. They said, Chester didn't look suspicious because we saw him all the time. He played us. He knew that area. He didn't play you. You just didn't explore all the options, dude.
Yeah, what the fuck? Oh, he didn't look suspicious.
Right?
Okay.
Like, come on, man.
I think your job extends a little bit farther than that.
But like, nah, you cool.
You good. Yeah.
Chester's murders were blamed on a man of a completely different description, and detectives were instructing people to look for a composite dubbed the Southside Slayer, possibly with a Caribbean accent, possibly with a pockmarked face.
A Caribbean accent? What the fuck?
I think they just took little tidbits from like different murders and put them together into this one person that was nothing like Chester or some of the other murders out there. Those dozens of murders turned out to be the work of several men, including Chester. Chester was charged with the sexual assault of Maria Martinez, and they began the trial for the rape charge only. Maria glared defiantly at Turner during the trial and throughout her difficult testimony. Ultimately, 37-year-old Chester was convicted and sentenced to 8 years. As part of his sentencing for the rape conviction, Chester was required to give a DNA sample, and his information was entered into CODIS. The DNA sample linked him to 2 murders, and the police began looking for more cases that could have been attributed to Chester. Hoping that this was finally their big break, the detectives began testing a broad sampling of about 100 unsolved murders in addition to 35 murders around the Figueroa corridor area. They received multiple matches, and he was charged with murdering 10 women and 1 fetus between 1987 and 1998. The police department's Scientific Investigations Division determined that the likelihood of the genetic profile belonging to someone other than Chester in these cases was 1 in 1 quintillion. That's the right way to say that, right?
I like that fake number you just made up. Fucking a Disney movie. A quintillion. A reptilian?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, okay.
1 reptilian.
That's a lot.
Chester's defense attorney, John Tier, said that the DNA does not prove murder. He said, if it is his DNA, it indicates that he had sex with these women sometime prior to them dying, not that he was their killer.
His dick is just like the kiss of death. Right? He just happened to stick
the
his
odds
dick.
on that are pretty bad.
Yeah.
If you keep fucking these women and they end up dying, please stop fucking women.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Deputy Medical Examiner Lisa Sheinin testified that all 10 women were strangled. 9 of them had cocaine in their systems. 1 was more than 6 months pregnant, and 1 was 5 months pregnant. Chester Dewayne Turner was found guilty of 10 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. The following month, he was sentenced to death. Okay, this is the part where I'm like, the police maybe did a good job.
Okay.
Which makes me a little hopeful and happy. Mm-hmm. During the investigation of these cases, detectives also reviewed similar cases. In doing so, the detectives re-examined the case of 28-year-old David Allen Jones, who had been convicted by coerced confession of the 3 murders near the school.
Okay.
After re-evaluating the physical evidence in the murders of Tammy Christmas, Deborah Williams, and Mary Edwards, the detectives found that there was no DNA evidence linking David Jones to these crimes. So they compared the DNA from these cases to Chester's CODIS information, and it was a match. The new investigation revealed that the blood typing evidence did not match the blood types found at the crimes for which David Allen Jones spent 11 years in prison, and he was exonerated of his murder charges. Jones was released from prison in March 2004 and filed a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. Jones was awarded $720,000 in compensation.
Look at the difference between 2004 cops and 88 cops. Good police work versus just shit.
Yeah. Both of Chester's trials received significantly less coverage than most other murder trials. If Chester himself or his victims had been white, there would have been much more coverage of this manhunt and trial. Dr. Jeff Victoroff, Associate Professor of Clinical Neurology and Psychiatry at the University of Southern California, said, "Society tends to focus on dramatic explosions of violence against people with whom they identify. So when drug-using minority women die, it usually fails to stimulate much public outrage. There might even be, in some people's minds, some kind of moral difference drawn." In fact, Chester's trial took place during the same time that Phil Spector's trial for the murder of Lana Clarkson. Reporters and TV crews flooded the courthouse to cover the story of one white actress who was murdered, and the murders of 13 black women were deprioritized in the media, with barely any coverage at all. USC's Professor Victoroff goes on to say that despite the belief of police that Turner could be the most prolific killer in the city's history, his trial was relegated to the inside local pages of the LA Times, and it gets only passing mention in other local media outlets, with virtually no national coverage at all, due to his victims' race and social status. In 2014, Turner was convicted of the additional murders. He received an additional death sentence for those murders, making him the most prolific killer of his time, with a total of 13 murders of women and 2 unborn children.
Ramirez was going on at the same time, wasn't he? Late 80s?
Yeah, got way more coverage.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of his victims were like across different races. Yeah. But because Chester exclusively only murdered black women, it never got coverage. So terrible. Crazy. And that's so many people.
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking people.
That's so many.
I guess people associate like the high risk lifestyles with like high risk consequences.
Right.
I guess.
And they just have way less sympathy.
Yeah. Like, well, you shouldn't have been blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I can hear my dad in my voice, in my head.
There's also this misconception that all serial killers are white men. Mm-hmm. And that just simply isn't the case. That's just what we see coverage of. Mm-hmm. And you have to evaluate what the media is looking at and what they're reporting on as affecting those statistics. It's just a matter of who the victims are, who the killer is, and what the media wants to put on their front page or in their news stories.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're not all white. There was Richard Ramirez.
Right. Just kidding. He was like the only one.
Kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, I just wanted to cover that story because I thought that really needed to be talked about.
Yeah, that was a good story.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. All right, you want to play a game? Because
absolutely not.
I'm super weepy and depressed now. So,
do I want to win? Yeah. Sure.
You were real quiet during the story, just like, let this go quickly so that I can win.
Hurry up,
I want to get to the part where I kick her ass.
Yeah.
So this week, we're going to do a game
called Find My Butthole.
We play that every week.
Warmer.
Ding, ding, ding. So this week, we are going to play a short game of 2 truths and a lie. Kelly and I have divided up a list of a few serial killers. Mm-hmm. We're going to go through and list off 3 facts, and then we have to guess which ones are true and which one is not true.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Cool. You want to go first, since you always win?
Ed Gein.
Okay. First one's Ed Gein. Let me get in my Ed Gein mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You in your mode?
Got it. I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
Well, your dick's tucked back, so. I think it's beautiful. All right. I was extremely popular in school. 9 vulvas were found in my house in a shoebox. And I have a biographical musical.
I think the musical is the lie. I don't remember hearing that there was a musical about him. I know that he collected vulvas, but I don't remember if they were in a shoebox. And the other one, I don't remember what you said, but it's because I did a lot of drugs.
I was extremely popular in school.
Oh, that I don't believe.
There you go. Damn it. I almost had you. I was like, yeah, it's a musical. Damn it.
So it was the musical?
Yeah. Wait, no. Fuck. What's your answer? What's your final answer? Wait, what's your answer?
It's the popular in school.
Okay, yeah. This fool was bullied so hard.
Yeah.
He was punked nonstop. So just thought I'd slip that in there. Okay, cool.
Just a little detail.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, the first one up is Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer's dad was a scientist who taught him how to preserve bones. Mm-hmm. He was discharged from the army for being gay. Mm-hmm. And he was sentenced to 957 years in jail.
Gay. It's the gay one.
God. He was discharged from the army for being an alcoholic.
Ah.
Yeah. And yeah, he was sentenced to 15 lifetimes,
Holy
which totaled
shit.
957 years.
Yeah. Okay. Gary Ridgway is my next.
See, this is one I'm not very familiar with.
Woo!
So.
All right. I repeated a single school year twice in high school. I stabbed a 6-year-old kid when I was 16. I'm a church-going fanatic and would never cheat on my wife.
Oh, this is hard because I'm just really not familiar with him at all.
I bet you there's people yelling.
Pass.
All right. Edmund Kemper. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so I believe that he repeated a year in school. For some reason that's believable to me. The other two, he killed a 6-year-old.
Stabbed a 6-year-old when he was 16.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one.
He's a church-going fanatic and would never cheat on his wife.
I'm going to say that the church going was the lie.
Is that your final answer?
It is.
You want to lock it in?
Seal it with a kiss.
You're really good with this. He actually cheated on his wife with a bunch of prostitutes, caught gonorrhea for the second time, and then continued to fuck prostitutes unprotected. Well, you're doing good. I don't like this game. We got to stop.
So the next one is Mr. Charles Manson.
Woohoo!
Charlie married a teenage girl who gave birth to a son, Charles Manson Jr.
Lie. No, just kidding.
Manson's girls were not allowed to wear glasses. And Manson's mother was extremely protective of her son and very controlling.
I'm going to say the glasses one is true. That's
Okay.
true. Okay.
Maybe.
Fuck you and your cool faces. Oh, blink twice if I'm right. Okay, I'm going to say he doesn't have a son.
Okay. He does.
Fuck. All right. I don't know shit. I don't care.
His mother was actually...
I knew that. I just was kidding.
Oh, okay, cool. She gave birth to him when she was 15. And so she was really young, and she
and she
kind of
didn't give
just
a
let
shit.
him do his own thing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that she was a terrible mother. It was just she was very young.
Okay.
You know? And so
Yeah.
she kind of just was very hands-off with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm losing again.
It's a first. There's a first time for everything.
Yeah, no, it's good. Edmund Kemper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Big dude. Is one of the facts that he was like 6'10"?
It was that he was thick as fuck. What's that word? Voluptuous. Voluptuous, but Mo would say voluptuous. Edmund Kemper is voluptuous. All right, so my mom made me sleep in a locked basement because she was afraid I would molest my sisters. I became an assistant to the psychologist at the hospital where I was committed. Or my first murder occurred when I killed a student hitchhiker.
The hitchhiker is true. The mother molestation fear is totally true. That's the one I know is true. The other one, the assistant, is a lie.
You gonna lock it in?
I am.
Okay.
I'm probably wrong. You're looking at me like I'm wrong.
It was a trick because I think he killed his grandparents first or his mom or his parents first or something like that. Or it was parents or some shit. Yeah. But yeah, he became an assistant. He was like really good. He became an assistant to the psychologist at the mental, Astrodero, whatever fucking mental institution.
You just said a lot of words and didn't complete any of them.
It's something like that. Something weird like that. But yeah, he became an assistant.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was there as he was committed and then got a fucking, like, an apprenticeship.
The hitchhikers came later.
Yeah, after his parents.
That's all coming back to me now.
I think his parents were in, like, the 60s, 64 or something, and the hitchhikers were, like, 72 or 76 or something like that.
Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, he did pick up hitchhikers. So.
Yeah.
Your turn.
All right. The next one for me is Richard Ramirez. First one is, a juror was murdered during Richard Ramirez's trial. When Richard was 13, he witnessed a murder. And Richard's signature long hair was kept long because he believed it made him more powerful.
Oh, fuck. These all sound correct. Okay. I know he witnessed a murder, but I don't know if it was when he was 13 because it was like his uncle or his cousin or someone that killed someone. What was the second one?
A juror was murdered during his trial.
I think it was after his trial a juror was murdered. Is that it? Ding, ding, ding.
You're going to lock it in?
Lock it in.
That one is true.
God damn it.
It was a juror named Phyllis Singletary.
I know someone died. Yeah, a juror died.
She was murdered while they were trying to get the verdict.
That's why they had to like switch and get another juror or something. I knew that. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
And at 13, he witnessed his cousin shooting his wife.
Yes.
In front of him.
Yep, I remember that.
And the lie is that he did not believe his hair gave him powers.
No.
It just made it up.
Damn, that sounds so true.
It just sounded like something he would think for some reason.
Absolutely. He's like kind of crazy. I don't know.
With the pentagram on the hand.
Yeah. You would think something gives him power. Like, I don't know why I thought that. Good job. Good one.
Thanks.
Trickery. Ted Bundy. Won a scholarship to Stanford University. I won a scholarship to Stanford University. I like to keep plaster of Paris at my house to make casts. I have an IQ of a genius.
I believe the Stanford. The plaster of Paris doesn't really make sense to me. I don't remember that, although it could be true. He did have a high IQ. So I think it's the plaster of Paris.
Wrong. He's not a genius, technically, by genius standards.
Oh.
Everyone thinks that.
It's like 1 point below, you tricky bastard.
It's a little bit long. It's a little bit more. You know, I think, who else had a fucking high IQ too like that? Another serial killer on my list has a really high IQ. It's right up there at like 126 or 130 or something. It's like,
but it's not in the 130s or 140s.
It's slightly above average.
Okay.
So yeah, he's pretty smart, but...
Yeah, I remember that he was smart, well-educated, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Murder. Oh, wait. Sorry. Of course he has Cass at his house. He's fucking pretending to be broke all the time. How are you going to fucking... Pretending to be fucking,
How did I miss that?
Broken arm.
I didn't even think about it.
How do you think he got all the women?
For some reason, I was thinking of it like art projects. Like, he was really into, like, making this, like, sculptures and shit.
That's amazing. That's good. Okay, your turn. Sorry.
No, it's all good. The next one is H.H. Holmes. Homie Holmes. When Herman Webster Mudgett was a child, he wanted to be a doctor. Holmes asked to be buried in concrete, and Holmes committed his first murder at the age of 17.
God, I want to say the concrete thing. I know he wanted to be a doctor. That's why he was fucking cutting up people all the time and shit. I'm going to say the concrete one's wrong.
It's actually the doctor one.
Shut up.
He was extremely scared of doctors when he was a child.
No way.
He didn't want to be a doctor until later on when kids started fucking with him and like put that skeleton on him. Mm-hmm. And then it basically cured him of his fear of doctors and death. And after that, in like his teens, he was like, okay, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
But he was terrified, which is why the kids picked on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he did want to be buried in concrete.
Which is fucking crazy.
Because he was scared that people would grave rob him. Oh. Because he had done all this horrific shit to bodies. He was like, someone's going to come get me. So he wanted to be buried in 10 feet of concrete was what he asked for.
A couple drills and sledgehammers will get you out. That's hilarious.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did also kill one of his friends at 17.
Shit.
Yeah.
John Wayne Gacy.
Okay.
During my chemical injection execution. Okay, let me rephrase that. Yeah, that's fine. During my chemical injection, during whatever in my execution.
Lethal injection.
Thanks, bruh.
It's a spotter. A word spotter.
The IV clogged unexpectedly before going into my arm, mysteriously. At one point, I had a high-level security clearance given by the U.S. Secret Service. My first wife stuck by me after my first child molestation. How about that?
All of those things are so awful. I'm in shock. I think his wife stuck by him.
They're all so bad.
They're all so terrible. The lethal injection thing is freaking me out so much that I can't get past it. I feel like that must be true because I'm so horrified. And what was the last one?
At one point, I had a high-level security clearance given by the U.S. Secret Service.
I want to say that one's false. I don't believe he had a security clearance, but your face tells me that I'm wrong.
That he did have a high-level.
Why?
I remember, wasn't he part of like the Democratic Party or whatever?
Oh, but that's right.
He took like a picture with Mrs. Carter or something like that. And I guess it was like controversial because he had like an S pin on his jacket, which means he had some like high level security clearance.
Damn.
The one that was wrong and the one about the lethal injection is right.
Okay.
Jesus stopped. And no, I'm just kidding. Jesus didn't stop. But his first wife left him actually because he molested a child.
I don't remember that.
So she took off. Good for her.
Interesting. Good job, lady.
Because there's ladies that stick around.
Right?
They're just like,
there's a lot of them.
Anything. They're lying. Kids tell lies.
All right. So last one.
Woo!
Albert Fish. Alberto Pescado. His father was 75 years old when he was born.
True.
By age 20, he had started working as a sex worker.
Oh.
In his late 20s, Albert briefly cleaned up his act when he fell in love with a woman and they got married.
It's either B or C. Because I remember his dad was old as shit.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And his mom was only 32.
Super, yeah. Like, how is that guy bust? And he had like a bunch of brothers and sisters too, right? Mm-hmm. So he was just busting loads.
Old man loads everywhere.
Geriatric loads. I want to say B, but that just sounds too easy. So I'm going to say C is the lie. He didn't clean up his act.
No,
he didn't.
Was forced into an arranged marriage.
But he
did not love her, and he did not clean up his act.
That's what I thought was the lie.
It is the lie.
Yeah, so right.
You're right.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were telling me I was wrong. Like, no, you were right.
I was like, no, he did not.
So he worked as a sex worker?
Yeah, he did. In his 20s, he moved to New York and began doing the deed for money.
I wonder how much he got.
For his little mustachioed ass.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Way to go.
Yeah, we have a few more picked out. So maybe next week or a bonus episode or something. We'll do some more.
Yeah, I like Two Truths and a Lie.
Yeah. That's a good one. All right. You want to do a few iTunes reviews?
Yeah, who likes us?
It's Kelly's favorite part. We have a few iTunes reviews tonight. The first one is from Behind Smile, and it said that we are funny and we don't have filler or tangents when we're in the middle of a story, which is fantastic.
Oh, shit. I think we have tons of tangents.
I'm pretty sure that's the opposite. Are they fucking with us?
Yeah. Is that sarcasm?
Because we're all over the place. I mean, we get the story in there, but sometimes we talk about other shit. But thank you.
Just like a real conversation.
I mean, you know. It really is just our conversation plus microphones.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes it can't just be all straight. I gotta say it or I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go crazy if I can't just put my 2 cents in, which is so stupid of me, but still.
No, I get it.
It's fun, yeah. I gotta scream things at you while you're reading. That's my favorite part.
Street harassment while I'm sitting here. Melissa said that we are relatable and Kelly is extremely goofy. They make her work days go faster and she couldn't ask for anything more. Thank you very much, Melissa. Thanks. That's very sweet.
Thanks.
We appreciate you.
Glad you called me goofy and not dumb as fuck.
No, that's what she meant. These girls are fucking jackasses.
One of my friends at my work was saying, because he always like hits on me in a jokingly way. But he,
sure.
Yeah, no, he like hit on me and and I was like, yeah, I like to sniff armpits. And he's like, man, why you gotta say some weird ass shit every time I try and fucking hit on you?
And you're like, that's not weird. That's just true. Yeah, that's a true thing.
What
else
do I say? Yeah, I was like, put your armpit on my face. I swear I'll like it. I swear to God.
Good times.
I'm good at weirding up the conversation.
Making it weird.
Yeah. I bet you the next comment is going to say, I like that they don't curse.
Seriously. So the next one is from Kay Bassett, who said that we are well-researched, lots of laughs and humor, cursing, and sex talk.
Yeah.
It just sounds like we're moms trying to let them know about the birds and the bees. They went on to say that we are 2 chicks that they want to hang out with.
Oh, come hang out with us.
We like friends.
Unless it's a trap and they're going to murder us.
Please don't murder us, but you're welcome to hang out as long as you don't get stabby.
Yeah.
We don't appreciate that.
Or you can come hang out at my house where it already is stabby. And we could survive that shit together. Thanks, Kay Bassett.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's all we have for iTunes reviews this week. Thank you so much for leaving those reviews. If you haven't already, please go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe. We would really appreciate that, and we will always shout you out on the show. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, please check us out there. We have new episode info, memes, ridiculous shit, drawings from creepy children, all the good shit that you want to see. And also, I think I forgot to mention last week, I have been leaving in the links to all the victims resources that I put in on our Killer Kids episodes. So if there's anything that you want to check out as far as domestic violence, suicide hotlines, we have put them in there, and I'm going to continue to leave them in there. So every week, those will be easily accessible for you. I have links to the stories in there as well if you want to follow up on any of the information. And we will see you next week.
Woo, for more Los Angeles.
Thanks again for checking us out, guys.
Let's go get a churro. Or an elote.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.